Welcome to Coffee with Flat Earther, Concave Earther. We've got today Sam Hancock. He is not a flat earther. He's a concave earther. How you doing, Sam?
Good. Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to have you. So I've got coffee. My coffee's actually gone now. I drank it all, and it was cold anyway. So, and I know, Sam, you've got some tea, so it's appropriate being in England. Are you from, what part of England are you from?
Yorkshire.
Yorkshire, okay.
Yeah, Halifax. It's just a small place. You know, you've got one in Canada, Halifax. It's just a small Yorkshire town in the middle of England. And
Okay.
I live close to where I grew up, so I'm just a local truther.
Local truther, nice. You said you live up close to where you grew up. You got family in the area?
Yeah, not much. My mum, my brother, my dad's dead. Got a couple cousins and my aunties around. Rest of my family are sort of scattered around England.
Okay. So growing up, you went you go to school. What'd you do for schooling?
I actually went to a decent school in the area, passed the 11 plus test to go to a grammar school. But I ended up getting expelled, thrown out, because I used to be a little bit, just trying to impress people instead of Father God back in those days. So, yeah, I used to be a little bit of a nightmare at times, so I was intelligent, but I was not the best behaved. I've changed a lot. So,
well, I got in trouble myself plenty. So, what do you work? What do you do for that?
I'm unemployed. I pretty much. At one time, I was trading vinyl records because I used to collect vinyl records. So, as it was my hobby, and I had the ability to make money buying and selling, I did a lot of that. Other than that, I've just done a few, short-term, just local jobs. I've never had aspirations for a career or anything like that. So I'm just a truth seeker, basically. I'm unemployed. I get by and sell off my vinyl collection. And I'm just a truther, basically. I spend my life trying to learn, chill out, have my own time, and teach little bits of what I've learned to people.
All right. So, how long have you been looking at and thinking about that the shape of the Earth might not be a sphere?
4 years, maybe 5. Not quite sure, but I'd just say 4 years.
Did you go right to concave, or did you think maybe it was flat for a while?
I did, yeah. I thought it was flat for quite some time. 2 years. Yeah, I completely rejected the notion that we're not on a spinning ball for about 6 months. Thank God that I managed to just learn about the Van Allen belts being a deception for the firmament, etc. Learned about the Michelson-Morley Experiment and...
Hold on.
Okay.
Michelson-Morley Experiment. Have you read the experiment? Have you read their published document?
Well, about 4 years ago, I read.
I just read it yesterday.
About the document or the official document,
So I just read their document yesterday, and their conclusion was there's no ether, and the Earth is spinning. Right, that was their conclusion. So to say Michelson-Morley as proof of anything other than a spinning ball is not quite appropriate, because they were testing not whether or not it's a ball, they're testing whether or not there's ether, and the conclusion was there's no ether, or it's not affecting they're doing. So I see people talk about Michelson-Morley a lot, but I don't think that it's probably in anybody's favor other than the people that are with the accepted model.
It's my belief that there was a series of similar experiments conducted that all sort of were done by people that don't believe that the Earth's moving, looking to find some sort of result that it is or not, and that they basically couldn't find a result. And for me, logic deduces, just with those experiments, similarly with the plumb bob experiments, that the actual results and the truth is that, like, the Earth's not moving and the Earth's concave is divergent, but we've got this scientific mafia, this scientific elite that they're hell-bent on putting forward false explanations and theories and just lies, basically. So you've got the LIGO, LIGO, the LIGO experiment.
Yeah, that's a big version of Michelson-Morley.
And for me, that was just complete hoax. It's like they might be they're obviously doing something there, they've spent some money there, but for them to say that they found some binary super black hole and gravity waves and all this stuff, they're just lying to us. So I'm of the mind where we're being completely deceived. And
all right, so there's been over 200 papers that have come out of the LIGO experiment. These are peer-reviewed, and when something is peer-reviewed, the people reviewing it, they want to shoot it down, right? They have their own ego that gets benefited if they can shoot down somebody else's experiment. And it's been well accepted. Have you looked at any of those papers to see that there's any particular errors in what they've done?
No.
Okay, so
I can't.
As a truther, I'd encourage you to seek the truth there and say, all right, well, what is it? Other than just saying it's all a lie, look at it and say, what is it specifically that's wrong? Other than, because if you haven't looked at it, it's hard to say that you looked for truth there.
Well, it's almost like if they put forward something that adds up and makes sense, like a maths equation, then the maths equation might sort of be correct and make sense, but it doesn't mean that's what's happening. So if there's no such thing as black holes or gravity, that they're just concocting up all this data and stuff, and for me, that's what's going on. So it's where you like, people are faced with, like, you're in a world where there's like these people of truth trying to say that's just a load of crap. It's just a load of concocted up data, and we're actually in a stationary creation. Like, we're inside or outside of a ball, and it's moving or not. And you've got two parties, and you know me, and I love you, and I figure this out, but disingenuous people are going to come to you with that same old argument, the same old one that I've had to tear myself away for to get to the alternative, that everything we're being told isn't the truth. They didn't go to the moon. The Van Allen belt doesn't exist. It's just a cover.
Okay, so
the LIGO experiment, etc.
All right, hold on. So, all right, there are hundreds of people that have been involved in the LIGO experiment. Lots of money spent. All right, ignore the money. Just put the people in it. These people have spent, they go to college, they go to university, they get their master's, they get their PhD. All this is not secret society stuff. This is all just regular straight education. Then they get over to the LIGO, and they're in the LIGO experiment, and somebody at some point comes to them and says, look, we're actually just faking all this data. We need you to play along. Is that what you think's happening?
I think people are on like a need-to-know basis. They've already well assessed when they've let someone into a company or a department like NASA, or someone that's going to be working in this like experiment at a facility. They've already like screened and vetted. They've already made sure that everybody's going to play ball or well duped or in on it already. You know, that's the mind of the JFK. Give us a heads up that there's a massive conspiracy around the world, and it includes like science and the scientific industry, basically.
Okay.
So some people want to deny that there is nothing when, like, a president would try to give us an heads up and got shot for it, and someone will find one hole, like, look, they didn't go to the moon because look, they're faking it, and then some people just in complete denial, and it just leaves you with like, are you genuine or not? But I just know everybody's fate. Like they're in denial. They won't accept the truth, and that's not going to be good for them.
Well,
or they're gatekeeping it. They know that they're lying and they're getting paid or whatever. I know that it's not going to work out good for them, so I'm doing what I'm doing, trying to get everyone to see. Be suspicious, because you can't see a document saying that someone was an agent or they got paid or they're being fake. You've got to like use intuition and your spirit, not just your eyes, and ask for tangible this and tangible that. We're in one.
Hold on. I got some questions here to move. I want to move on from that though, because you know, I don't want to rehash too much, and I know you'll cover that again. So, where did you get the concave Earth idea from? Where did that first enter your awareness?
I found Concave Earth basically being pushed by LSC. If I remember rightly, this Lord Stephen Christ character. Okay. I don't think that it was presented to me as like, you know, Concave Earth, Cyrus Teed, or I think I found the concave model through LSC. So I've had to be able to, what is the connection? What is the difference? And
is he a concaver?
Yeah, well, from my opinion, the elite have been using various agents over the years. So this would include Samuel Rowbotham, who they used as a flat Earth proponent to outnumber Concave Earth. Around that time, they've used Cyrus Teed as an agent to lead the controlled opposition and discredit Concave Earth and make it seem like a crazy cult.
So was there concave in the 1800s?
Yeah. Going back well before that, there was Mustafa Abdelkader. You've got the Concave Earth party that was around in the like medieval times. The Greeks depicted Concave Earth by showing Atlas like a god, like a man holding up the ball of stars, the zodiac. I just refer to that as Atlas and Zodiac. It's showing the celestial sphere being held up by the air, the ether.
As if it's inside the
Earth, yeah.
Okay.
And there's actually ancient Egyptian sort of iconography of that going further back too, of a green arc with a celestial sphere above it and the Eye of Horus between.
Okay, so how does gravity work then?
I'm not the guy that's thought this up. It's actually, the science is out there and it's known. So the ether's there, and there's universal compression. It's being dubbed.
What's universal compression?
It's basically the push from the center coming outwards. So rather than gravity, which would be the mass of the Earth pulling us downwards to it or inwards, it's a force from above pushing out. It's like a fling from above. So it's added to, that is added to, which we see as the Coriolis effect. It's slightly different in slightly different areas because of the celestial sphere spinning. So, there's more around the equatorial areas than the polar regions, this Coriolis effect. But there's basically a push coming from outwards, but there's kind of like a cyclical force that holds up the there's like a two-way effect going with the light, the energy, the force that holds the celestial sphere suspended.
Okay, all right. So, you don't know about gravity.
I don't believe in gravity. I've heard
we can use the term to be, however you want to define it, and flat earthers define it differently. Don't like the word, but the reality is that there's something that brings us down, and it's a very consistent force, not perfectly consistent because we can measure differences at different places. So you just say there's something that presses out from the center.
Yeah, I'm not the best at understanding it, but
is there? I know, like,
by what I mean is that the theory, the science of this understanding, it like capitulates, it gels, it aligns with a concave model, whereas flat Earth is just failing, and what we're dealing with is that they've inverted. It's like, it's very simple, but the whole world just needs to get over this, that they've inverted the curve, so they've inverted the model, they've inverted the star map. It's all just inverted, and so these little simple principles are really actually massive.
Is there like a online website or a forum or something like that where people discuss this?
There are various Facebook groups. Some might be led by controlled opposition, i.e. people that aren't really in the best interests of all the truthers and the world. The controlled opposition thing's massive, but things like Discord and chat groups, there isn't much for concave. It's quite small. The LSC had a Facebook group that got pulled. There was a lot of content on LSC and his like number two man's channels that got pulled down at the beginning of this year, or around spring, around April, May this year. They had like a decade of concave.
He got arrested, right?
For the second time, but that's apparently, again, like, not just believing everything. So I'd like to see the evidence of his arrest and where he is now, like you'd like to see me present to you the 3D aerial mapping with the concavity on it. It's like...
Yeah, well, the reality is it's a little easier to believe that somebody got arrested, because that happens all the time, than to believe that something that doesn't match a whole lot of data and a whole lot of science is true. It's a different level needed to convince. Right? You've maybe heard extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I don't know if I totally buy that, but it is certainly harder to believe.
I'd agree. I mean, my mind frame is the people that are working on this LSC PSYOP have thought to themselves, well, we'll get him to do this and get him to do that, and we'll get him to threaten the president and lock him up for it, and we'll keep him out of it.
If it's a PSYOP, then why is there all the good... Oh, if it's a PSYOP, why is there all the good concave data there? If I don't quite understand what you're getting at.
Because somebody else could come along and put it all together and represent it as a truther with integrity and not discredit it in any way, and just present it all. And so that's what they've been hoping wouldn't happen, while they've had a crazy guy kind of do it, and then all their trolls just run around going, concave, that's LSC, you're connected to him. This is just a massive war, a massive psychological war. They use it as
they wanted to discredit LSC to discredit everything he's tied to.
No, they don't want to discredit LSC. LSC does the discrediting himself by coming online, claiming he's an agent that's put out to discredit Concave Earth, and then they all point at him and say, if you talk about Concave Earth, you're talking about this crazy madman LSC, and they did it with Cyrus Teed. When you think about it, a guy claimed that he was a messiah a century ago while he was outnumbered by the Flat Earth Society, that the elite were putting agents forward like Sir Samuel Rowbotham.
Was he wasn't a sir.
Yeah, he was a sir. On whatever level, however he got his knighthood. Yeah.
I'd like to see that. He was not well respected.
He was a British agent. It was a British knight. Definitely was. I've heard two different stories, like he was a knight like this or a knight like that. You know, like a normal, just a general knight, or he was of some little order. Someone just recently popped up and gave me the name of some. You can't hard evidence and prove all this stuff. What you can do is start to see all like a picture emerging. You start to see it's like a big rerun. You start to see that the elite are pushing all these models. They've inverted concave. They're keeping you away from that one, and you've got all the evidence for it, but it's been like denied.
Okay.
The force the level experiment.
Can you explain how the sun works? How seasons work?
Yeah, perfectly. It just works inside Concave Earth. What's happening is the sun's basically doing rotations, and it's basically going like up and down, away from, and back towards, and back down past the equator. So when it's gone further away from you, like say if you're down at the bottom, Concave Earth's above you, the celestial sphere.
Hold on, there's no bottom in a concave Earth, just like on the.
Well, no, you're in the bottom of the model, but everybody is. So you're just focused on you, and so you're stood at
Okay.
Rather than if you're on a globe, you'd be at the top of the ball.
Sure. Okay.
Top. So you're in the ball at the bottom, and there's this celestial sphere inside the Earth, and the sun's doing rings around the equator, and obviously you'll be on an angle depending, and it's basically going up and down in the Earth.
You mean north and south?
Yeah, just like it's doing rings, and it's working its way like round, up and down once a year. The whole model of Concave Earth is just a straightforward inversion of geocentric Earth. So what the planets, the stars, the sun, the moon, it's all just an inversion. You just invert geocentric Earth. And then so what they've done is they've inverted Concave Earth to create geocentric Earth, and then they further displaced it, which Neil deGrasse Tyson says in the Superman film that they displaced geocentric Earth to create, well, that Copernicus did. Or
in what film?
Superman. Neil deGrasse Tyson appears in the Superman film to just drop that little in.
Yeah, it's fiction, so careful there.
Well,
all right. So, how do moon phases work?
I'm not one that's good for moon phases, so I just say moving on because you have got the choice to like back the moon by globe, flat Earth, or concave. What I'm just going to say is I can't really explain to you the moon phases, but the selenelion is best explained inside concave Earth and would appear to just work and make sense. So
yeah, I'll give you that. So all right, so hold on. People might not understand what that is. That's where you see both the sun and the moon at the same time when the moon is being eclipsed. That's the and that flat earthers sometimes use that as proof, but if it's a sphere, right, then moon's over here, sun's over here, and you're on the edge, and you can see both at the same time. On concave, yeah, I get that since everything's on the inside, it'd be easier to see them simultaneously.
Yeah, and what we're dealing with as well is that God's in the center, and He's created what we call heaven. It's just like a word, and Obviously,
All right. Let's stick with the shape, right?
Okay.
Because that's you're getting into stuff that I can tell you people are just
Let me
outright
spit this
rejecting.
out then. So we're inside a structure that's got a shape that would have angles, or it's got levels, or best call them layers. So what you'll find is that we're on a stationary plane. It's not moving, and there's air pressure, and there's a barrier up there that they've told us. They've bombed it in 1962. That's known as Operation Fishbowl. But more recently, in 2014, they've come out and said there's sprites hitting a glass-like barrier up there at around 100 kilometers up there.
Who said that in 2014?
Daniel Baker is one of the most official sort of bases of these institutions. I think it's MIT. MIT, I've heard, Colorado.
What did he say?
That these sprites, electrons running into a glass-like barrier at 100 kilometers, that they've called it like a Star Trek style invisible shield. Well, it's just what they're trying to be calling the Van Allen belts to pass off their model, or it's the firmament that Werner von Braun's wrote on his tombstone. There's something up there that we're sealed in, that the stars are behind, that we're seeing the stars through.
All right. So when you say firmament, are you aware what the Hebrew word is? It's rakia.
Yeah, it is rakia. I'm trying
Rakia was translated to Latin for the Vulgate.
It's something.
And then hold on, it was translated to Latin, and they chose the word firmamentum. When it was translated from Latin to English, they transliterated it to firmament. They did not choose the English word by going back to the Hebrew. The English word that'd be more appropriate is expanse.
I kind of agree. I think that's a very heliocentric. If that's your model, heliocentrism.
It's not my model. I'm not talking my model. I'm talking the Hebrew word rakia is best translated as expanse.
Okay, well, what God did was he made something to separate two things, or water from itself. He put something in the middle of water to separate the water from the water. So you can say it's expanse if you want, but there's something, we wouldn't even be bringing it into the debate or argument if we didn't think there was some weight to this line that's in some old ancient text. So there's something up there separating water from water, and I just think it's this glass-like barrier that I can't go any further with it. I can't tell you if it's what tektite, what glass it's made out of. Can't tell you whether the Libyan desert glass is from the firmament or whatever, but there's something up there they bombed in 1962. And at best, or at worst, you're correct in saying that it's like an expanse, like it's nothing physical. It's just a separating, like a void. Well, there's something up there where the layer changes from what we know as the breathable atmosphere that's running out of oxygen as it gets up there. And then there's a barrier, there's a layer.
All right. So,
my point was actually that if this layer is 100 kilometers above, sort of constantly, is what they're saying basically. They weren't saying that it's 100 kilometers above the ocean level at this point here. They're basically saying that there's a layer wherever you go on the Earth, above the ocean surfaces. This thing's there at 100 kilometers. So you've got to plot this layer above. There isn't a flat Earth model, but if there was, then there couldn't be a dome. This layer would have to be flat, hovering like above it or fixed above it.
Yeah.
You kind of once you factor everything in, you run out of there is no convexity. It's got to be flat or concave. Hang on, there's no flat model. Hang on, everything works inside a concave. and they're using gatekeepers to keep everyone away.
So yeah, the map certainly works for you. If you see back here, these maps I made for a challenge by Flat Out Hero, who said use flight charts to plot out a triangle with 390-degree turns, and it was pretty easy to do. And as I was doing it, I was thinking, and before I knew about concave being a current thing, I'm like, this map would only work on a sphere or on the inside of a sphere. So these maps, I'll give it to you. They'd work for you.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah. I got to be honest, when I was making them, I'm like, is this going to work? I'm always questioning myself as I'm doing that. I'm like, are they going to line up? And they did. I didn't have to, fortunately, like, force anything. All I did was line them up, latitude, longitude, line them up, and they just fit, and they were 90 degrees, and everything worked. So, all right, I want to get into. I like to keep the topic going a little bit, change it for just a second here, and I'm going to ask you, and you've seen this already if you saw my previous ones, but I'm going to ask you a couple different conspiracy theories, and just give me a yes, no, maybe. And I know it's going to burn you because every one of them you're going to say, oh, there's a whole bunch more you want to talk about, but we'll just go through this just for fun. All right.
Yep.
So the FDA allows Big Pharma to get away with pushing bad medications.
Yep. True.
Fluoride is put in water to make people dumb.
True. Yep.
People have figured out free energy, but it's being hidden from us.
Whether free or very cheap, very low cost. Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
Okay. Dinosaurs never existed.
False. They're wrong on that. They've got it off a bit.
Okay. Okay.
Something existed that we call dinosaurs that were called dragons. Something existed.
Sure. Not dragons like Edgewise.
Not flying, fire-breathing. Or maybe they were, but I don't know. But I believe there was something. I'm not down with this dinosaurs are a hoax thing. So just
okay. Hitler did not die at the end of World War II, but he got away and moved to Venezuela or somewhere.
Or Argentina,
yeah. Yeah. Or I've seen people say that he went to the South Pole and escaped to the inside of the concave Earth. That's another one. This
is more just psyop distraction to keep people from concave Earth, because hollow Earth just muddies it all and it's just more distraction.
Yeah. All right. 9/11 was an inside job.
Yeah. The cabal, the Illuminati, the elite, whatever's running the show. Yeah.
Okay. The moon landings were faked.
Completely faked.
Sandy Hook or other shootings have been staged.
Staged. If that's the right word, they're inside.
Faked or something to get to do some thing. I don't know.
They're inside jobs too.
Okay. All right. Chemtrails are real and used for energy or to harm people.
Yeah, to harm people some ways. Yeah.
Some people are paid by the government to support the round Earth.
Completely. Oh, yeah. 100%.
100%. That's right. Queen Elizabeth is a shape-shifting lizard person.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You're not in for the archons?
Something different about them. She's very evil. Pulls it off like she's to be respected, but she's just bred for evil, in position because she's down for the evil. And she'd have been whacked by her fam, long ago if she was not down for the evil.
Okay. I don't see that, but I don't know. I think she's a sweet old lady.
Really?
So let's see. Seismic data. So I asked some people, what would you ask, Sam? And somebody said seismic data. So, and I know maybe you've seen this or heard this. When there's an earthquake, seismologists use the time that they received the data, the waves, right, that got to their sensors, to triangulate the location of the earthquake, right? And it gives them, through the triangulation of the time difference, it gives them the location. And so it requires a few pieces of data. And I'll write it out here. So I don't have a whiteboard. I should go get one so that conspiracy cats can be jealous. But bad marker. You draw in 2 dimensions, you draw circles. In 3 dimensions, you draw spheres. And then where they intersect is where, sorry about the noise there. So there you go. You've got two circles there, right? So those 2 dots are where the sensors would be located, and the circles would be based on the time that they received the waves. They can draw that circle, right? So if you have 2 of them in 2 dimensions, there's 2 intersecting points there. So the earthquake would then be figured to happen at one of those 2 points. So you need a third place to figure out an accurate which one of the 2 other ones. This marker's bad too. So here you go. So you've got a third one here now. I've intentionally drawn it a little bit inaccurate. You can see that they don't quite overlap in the middle there. And that's because there's errors. There's a margin of error in all of their measurements. That's normal because it propagates slightly differently through different materials. But they know, we know from experimentation and measurement about the range of how it is. So it's not 100% variation. It's 2 or 3% variation, things like that. So you use that, and now that gets you in the vicinity of it. And then you bring in other sensors, right? The more sensors you have, the lower your margin of error. And you see how now that's intersecting, those 4 circles are intersecting much more closely. As you get more and more sensors, more and more triangulation points like that, you get a more accurate reading, and it eliminates the margin of error as you have more points like that. So now I drew that in 2 dimensions. It's the same in 3 dimensions. Each one is a sphere. So the instruments are, about on the surface of the Earth, and they draw into the Earth is where that sphere goes. Because they measure the depth too. They get how deep the earthquake is. This data isn't localized to a few miles, right? It's over a large area, enough that the curvature of the Earth is a significant factor in it. So if it were, and this is one of the things that's used for it, it couldn't be flat because they wouldn't intersect, right? If you flattened it out, they wouldn't intersect. And the thing is, the triangulation using spheres like that completely ignores any shape of the Earth, because the timing is absolutely ignores that. It just pinpoints it in 3D space. These seismic waves don't go through the air at all. They die when they get to the air. So it just goes through the Earth. So they use that, and it completely supports a spherical Earth. Doing this type of triangulation doesn't support any other shape of the Earth, and they use that, in fact, to measure and analyze the shape of the Earth. So how do you think that could work in a concave model?
Well, it's just going to be showing up as angles. Distances will be the same, but angles are being explained away as like in excessive of showing concavity. So no doubt these seismic waves are showing some sort of concavity, but like when they plot them and try to show them on a globe happening underneath the surface of a convex globe, it's like with anything else, these sort of directions and distances will be exactly the same whether it's convex or concave. The only
hold on, not for this though. I'll give you it for the maps, right? These maps, they absolutely work if it's concave.
Again, the direction and the distance of the bounce or whatever will be the same. It's just
not measuring a. Hold on, it's not measuring a bounce. There's an earthquake here. Here's the surface, right? How long did it take to get here? How long did it take to get here? How long did it take to get here? There's no bounces when you pinpoint the epicenter of an earthquake. It's straight line, just simple triangulation. There's no angles. It's just pinpointing something in three-dimensional space.
Well, no, the angle is of the Earth crust, so it's it's either it's a shell, and it's a shell that's we'll call it a concave coating, or an inner sort of concave shell. If we try to have a go at modelling each, we'd fairly just give it the same thickness of layer. We're establishing that we can't map it. It doesn't work on flat. So you're just left now wondering, well, this amount of time, this energy, this wave, in what way is it sort of curved? What's it been bouncing off? We're dealing with layers. So the globe model, it's all sat floating on something that's molten. So wouldn't the waves be absorbing into that? Whereas it's more likely that they're bouncing off like a metallic or a hard shell that's concave under the Earth. So the readings could be just as easily blagged. Like, if the Earth's concave and they're showing that the aeroplanes are flying around a convex, they're just diddling the map, the model, to make it sure, to explain it. For they've had hundreds of years to be doing this stuff. It's the top minds that the world's running on it. They've got space agencies that if flat earthers or concave earthers were right, it's just a big lie. So it's not hard for them to just say, look, this is how we plot seismic waves.
All right, so here's the problem. Now you've included all seismologists in the conspiracy, and that's a lot of people.
Well, they're all
so here.
Granted that they're all taking for granted that they're saying that they think it's on a.
Here's the deal. So here's the surface of spherical Earth, right?
Yep.
And up here at the end of this dashed line here is a sensor, and it's measuring the distance, and then drawing this sphere. This is just a part of a sphere around, and then same thing over here. We've got the sensor measuring it here. And then we've got the sphere that it draws, and then here's the intersection, right? So you need several other sensors, and it's going to be three-dimensional. But if the core is molten, it's down here. This is in the crust. It's significantly far away from the molten core, right? So that triangulation works, and when you use 10, 20, 50, whatever number of sensors they have to find it, they all intersect in the vicinity. If it's concave, right? So here's a concave Earth. So the Earth is down here and the inside is up here. You do that same triangulation, but now you're sitting and it's farther away because it's curved the other direction. It's curved away from the epicenter instead of towards the epicenter, right? So what's going to happen is these spherical parts, this circle that we're drawing, they're not going to intersect the same, right? So this isn't about the data matches, because this data absolutely does not match, right? So it has to be either a sphere or they're all lying.
Well, it's definitely a sphere. It's just whether we're wondering whether we're on the inside or the
I know, man, so it has to be we're on the outside of a sphere or they're all lying. Right? Seismologists have to be in on it now.
Well, they're just going along with the data that they're always working.
The data doesn't work at all if we're on the inside of a sphere.
Why wouldn't it? If wherever there's some event where there's some shockwave sent out from, it's going to just sort of go out in all directions equally, unless there's something more solid stopping it from going that way. All this is just a simple geometrical blag. If the whole world's tricking everyone in an inverted model, it's not hard for them to just change the data and the angles and stuff like that. It's really not hard.
So, but who's the they that's changing the data, right? Is it the seismologists, or is there a layer of people that have somehow manipulated the data before the seismologists get it?
The elite run all this stuff, all these different, if there's a seismologist.
Hold on. Who is it that's manipulating the data? The seismologists or the people feeding data to the seismologists?
Well, it'll be the people feeding the data to the seismologists. But
okay, so now what if the seismologists do it themselves? Because these type of instruments aren't that big of a deal. I don't know if there's home kits that you can do.
Like we're in a globe. We're on a globe. We're on the top of a globe, and they just make the data apply in their globe model. They could just do it in a concave model, no doubt.
Okay, so what's happening then, you're saying, is this is what's happening. The data doesn't match, and then somebody gets the data, modifies it to look like it would work in this model, and then feeds it to the seismologists.
They just invert the you could say the data.
But inverting it doesn't work, because if you triangulate on this type of a surface, you don't get these intersections. You see, these two circles don't intersect. But up here, these circles do intersect.
Imagine this. And forget the drawing, and you're saying that the top one works and the bottom doesn't. Just imagine this. We're established it's a sphere. We're wanting to know whether it's in or out. And we make 10 points on the Earth that feel an earthquake at a certain level. And we can even go as far as to go down and see that the waves came from a certain direction. It's still like anyone with a thinking brain knows that this could be just mapped inwards or outwards, like inverted.
I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. The surface works that way, but as soon as you get some depth to it, then you're either you're going away from the surface or towards the surface. And if it's a sphere, if you're on the inside, then the dirt is this way, and the depth into the dirt is going to measure different than the depth into the air, right? Or if you invert it and you're on the outside of a ball, you're plotting a point in three-dimensional space, and you can't just simply invert the data, because that three-dimensional intersection won't match.
It's like, what are you trying to get it to match? Once you've inverted it, then it's going to show it looking a certain way. It doesn't mean that's the truth. It just means that's how it looks once you've inverted it.
Okay. All right, let's move on.
Let me just express again that if we're trying to figure out which way it is, and then we place 10 poles, so what we're saying is on our map that we know is spherical, we're trying to figure out in or out, and we know that it's happening. These 10 places are feeling these shocks and but we can plot them on a concave map. It's not like it doesn't work. It does. It just means that the waves are acting. That in reality, the waves are acting differently. Whereas on this convex stuff, they're just showing you that it does it here and telling you that it does there. And now they're trying to get you to like say, why doesn't the concave one match that? It's like, because you've been showing us a false model and lies all along. Show us the true one. Show us how it's really happening in concave. It's just a rubbish argument. We can invert the globe, so anything that can be done can be inverted. Period. That's that.
I disagree with that. I'm sorry.
Can be inverted.
The math simply isn't going to work out if you invert it when you try to triangulate things in three-dimensional space.
Oh, it will. The directions have to be the same. The distances have to be the same. But if you inverted, the 8 inches per square mile, the size and all this stuff, you invert it, it'll pass. It's just everyone's banking on it's inverted. And again, they try to explain how the Earth was formed, and then they have to say it's oblate because it was spinning. But then all NASA do is show shaded drawings of perfectly spherical Earth. It's not oblate at all. It's because we're inside.
Hold on. That's a lie. I'm not going to have you lying. Do you think? Hold on.
Always 100.
Do you think? Hold on. Stop. Do you think that it's 20% oblate, 30% oblate? How much do you think it is?
I don't think it's oblate at all because
what do you think their claim is?
Marginally oblate by it's only I can't remember the figure, but it's only a couple
less than 1%. So now if it's less than 1% and you have a picture that's 700 pixels wide.
This whole argument of like it is oblate slightly.
Hold on, no, let's just
explain that we're on a ball or we're in a ball or that we've managed to form on a ball spinning around the sun because people are just
hold on. So let's back up. You made a claim. I want to stick with that claim, right? We'll move on after this, but you said that how come they don't show the oblate? How come it's always a perfect sphere? And the answer is because it's so minorly oblate that in a picture our eyes couldn't see the difference. Now, I have taken pictures
it's the answer of an explanation. I disagree with your explanation. Your explanation passes. It's not the answer. The answer is we're being shown CGI. We're being shown composites. You'd be stupid to argue that because they've admitted that they've never shown us a real photo.
They've never admitted that they've never. All of the pictures from Epic Discover, all of the pictures from Himawari, they claim are true non-composite pictures. There are some pictures that they say are composite, but not all of them. So don't say that because that's a lie. I don't think you want to be lying.
This whole like, no, I definitely don't want to be lying. This whole like, we're on a ball and there's an atmosphere. Then there's this vacuum of space that we're somehow spinning around in.
All right, hold on. You're on to another topic. Let's go back.
Yeah, well,
I need to wrap this one. Just a second. We'll get to it. They show us a picture. It's 700 pixels wide or whatever, right? And if it's oblate, we can't see it because it's 707 pixels wide and only 700 tall, right? Our eyes can't see that. Go take a picture, take one of them, anyone, especially if it's from the equator that they claim is an actual single photo, and cut it, right? Cut it horizontally and then rotate it 90 degrees and drop it on top of the other one to see how closely are those matching, and they'll match close, but you'll see that if they claim it's a single photo, that they don't match perfectly. It's a little bit wider, but not a lot. All right, can you at least take that? If they're going to make it claim that it's oblate, they're going to be good enough to doctor the photo if they're doctoring it to be matching their claim.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. The amount of oblateness would not be too noticeable anyway. I'm just laying it all out and basically saying, don't the photos look perfectly spherical? The oblate story is just a story that's trying to explain, how the Earth's created, through the gravity and the stardust and all the crazy model has to include, like, how's it so spherical when it's got a central rotation point? It's all just rhetoric and pseudoscience. Pseudoscience. They're hiding that they've inverted concave Earth.
Well, it's not pseudoscience. It's science. Because there's nothing about the science that I've ever seen anybody claiming that it's pseudo, where they've actually pointed out here's where it's wrong, right? They just make a claim that it's pseudoscience, but not pointed out the flaws in it, right? So if there is a flaw, I'd love to discuss that. If you think that there's something wrong with how they've described something, or something wrong with the equations that they use. So
yeah,
here's the thing. I gotta say, most of the time when somebody says pseudoscience,
the observations, do you understand? The observations that we see from Earth, like heliocentrism, just couldn't match it. So without just saying, I've got a maths.
Okay. Well, that's an empty claim so far. Is there a specific thing that you can say doesn't match?
Yeah, the star, the whereabouts, the location of the star trails, it would seem to suggest that something's sort of spinning almost perfectly, and that something's not moving at all. Like the Earth's not moving at all, and the celestial sphere's like rotating.
So can you explain that better? Because the heliocentric model explains that really, really well. That we're in a star field and they're moving with us, and we're spinning, and they're moving. Since they're moving with us, they're relatively stationary in respect to us, and then that we're spinning in circles, and so then the North Star up here is mostly in the center, and it's mostly stationary. What doesn't match about that?
Basically, there doesn't appear to be much movement at all. If we were on a globe that was rotating once a day and corkscrewing behind the sun and doing, one rotation once a year, the stars would be in just different places every night. And
see, that's not at all. That's not at all the heliocentric model. So you've described something. Hold on, you've described something that's not the heliocentric model. The heliocentric model has the stars moving with us, right? So here's us, and here's the stars all around us, and we're moving with it, right? And all that motion that you're talking about is relatively minuscule in compared to the sizes. So it completely matches the heliocentric model. And what you've done is you've described something else and said that doesn't work. Sure, that doesn't work. But the heliocentric model you've not described and said that doesn't work.
No, the heliocentric model has got the Earth doing like a rotation once a day, corkscrewing behind, chasing the sun. I'm describing the heliocentric model, and what I'm just saying is that what we witness of the stars, like the flat earthers are looking at the stars and thinking, is this flat, or is it maybe concave, or does this make sense on the heliocentric model? No, it does. So geocentric globe Earth, because it's just an inversion, you could say that, like, oh yeah, well, it's the geocentric Earth passes with the stars. It doesn't pass with the curvature and all this, and the water doesn't bend that way. Diverging plumb bobs destroys the globe altogether, but geocentric Earth can sort of invert and have those stars just looking as settled and as smoothly running like we would witness, because it would just be a straight inversion. The heliocentric, if you actually model like what a night sky would see of the stars, its quote unquote galaxy or whatever, it would just be like more random and chaotic. It would change over centuries, which it hasn't.
I'm sorry, that it has changed. And they have modeled it, and you can download Stellarium for free, and it tells you, using the heliocentric model, what you're going to see tomorrow night and what you're going to see a year from now, and it's accurate. We've
only been alive, just less than 70 years. It hasn't changed that much. You can't blag that it's changed. Well, all the same,
no, we haven't seen it much, but based on old navigators' documentation and writings, we know that Polaris wasn't the closest to the center of the celestial pole in the past, that other stars were closer, and that they've moved a small amount over centuries.
They say that. I mean, I don't know, and it could be the case. I'm not going to say that's wrong, because I'm not somebody that believes there's anything special about Polaris or that God sat above it or anything like that. For me, there's nothing about Polaris like a flat earther thinks that the North's the center of the creation. I just think the center is the center of creation, the center where God is at the center.
Okay. All right. So you've brought up plumb bobs. Now, this is evidence. And so I'm going to ask to be a little more scientific about this. So explain your plumb bob stuff.
Well, if for me, the best way to word it is that if we were on a convex globe, on the surface of a convex globe, and we hung these plumb bob strings, then they would be naturally converging. They'd be closer, getting closer and closer the further down they went. And it would be like an experiment that you could, it's just repeatable. We could do it on a really short scale, small.
People do it all the time. And surveyors do it all the time.
If there was convergence, then that would kind of, it would back up convex model. I wouldn't be a concave earther right now. But what the elite have done is they've said, right, it's happened once or twice, and it diverged, and now we've got some reasons why it has inside a concave Earth. Why it has on a convex globe. They've tried to explain it away and say that it's diverging because of these conditions. It was a poorly conducted experiment, or this or that. But if you did set up a huge series of them, and they were all just, the next one, it just carried on diverging. Like with anything else, it would just disprove the convex model and prove concave model. And, it's just being suppressed, made up excuses for.
Okay, so you say there's some evidence where plumb bobs have diverged. And I know you've said that it's in some mines somewhere and that you can't get to those mines anymore. So the foundation of science is repeatability, right? It's critical to be able to repeat. And plumb bobs are not expensive to get, and it's not too difficult to start to measure whether they converge or diverge. So what has happened since the one couple times in the past? What has been the evidence?
Well, how rigorously can you conduct an experiment? I couldn't on my own, and it would just be that local guy that's been trying to push concave on everyone. Now he's saying he's proved it through this experiment he's done on his own. I'm happy with the elite aren't even telling you that it didn't diverge. They're telling us it's diverged twice. You'll find that in France and in Tamarack. So it has diverged twice, so it was repeated. So that therefore, if it's done a third time, it's just like, how many times do you want it to be repeated? It's been repeated.
Okay. Well,
it admitted that it diverged.
Okay, repeating something twice is different than repeating a convert or the other side of it a million times, because people do it, and so you look and you say, all right, well, it's happened twice over here, and so that supports this evidence, but it's happened a million times over here, that supports a different thing. So which one do you go with, the million or the couple?
But when have plumb bobs ever converged? They don't. They diverge. There's nothing sucking. There's no gravity, and there's no.
All right.
Space.
So
there's no spatial reduction below us. There's not these objects or plumb lines don't need to squeeze and squash in below us. The space is opening up. It's widening up.
Okay, that's your claim based on two pieces of evidence. Just two.
Everything's
that's all you've got.
No, everything's diverging, and for me it would be like, again, convex, flat, concave, and I'm going with concave, and it's science there to back it up. It's just being denied and rejected by people with bad rhetoric.
So I got another diagram here. So we've got here.
Or not, that's where they're going.
Here we've got convex Earth, right? And here plumb bobs, and then they're gonna this is them converging. They're pointing towards the same point in the center. And then you've got down here concave Earth with plumb bobs that are pointing away from each other.
Diverging, yeah.
Right.
But
so
you know, they're always
one experiment that did this, right?
Two official, you know, well-funded,
okay,
well-recorded,
and lots of this. Now, here's the thing: when you look at something like that, a scientist looks at that and says, "All right, what is different about that? That the results are different from so many other experiments? Is there a factor that we did not control well?" Because you do a controlled experiment, what happens is you want to minimize the number of variables. Ideally, you have one variable, because if you have one variable, then that is, and then there's a difference. You know that variable is very likely to have caused the difference. So when you look at something like this, you say, well, what other factors might have been the variable in here that made a difference in the outcome? So where were these tests done?
In mineshaft. The thing is, people took results from two ends. What they're doing is they're making sure at one end that this thing's hanging perpendicular, straight down. They're not stopping until they're happy that this plumb bob's just hanging straight down. Likewise,
and how did they measure that it diverged?
I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if they used a tape measure. I'm not sure. All I know is that they were happy. It's been recorded. There's no undoing. Everybody, like the elite, your bosses, if you work for whoever you work for, they've announced that they diverged twice. So there's no.
My boss doesn't care about that stuff.
No, what I'm saying is nobody's arguing that they diverged. It's just a waste of time. They did diverge twice. So let's talk about now, why did they diverge? Or let's give us an excuse why they did. So being how they were measured, I don't know. Does it matter? Because
certainly if it's done well, it doesn't matter. But I think it's important to note that it's in a cave. So if you're going to go with, to examine it from the traditional model, gravity is part of it. And is gravity pulling it down? But gravity is inside of a mine. You're down below the surface of the Earth. So if there's things laterally to the side, either way, they can make a difference in the pull of gravity. And people have done this, and they're able to measure lateral gravity.
The pull would be
because of mass.
The pull would be pulling sort of straight down. It wouldn't be making plumb bobs converge or diverge. Well, it would make them converge. Gravity, if anything, below us would make them converge. Any gravitational effect would only cause convergence. It could not cause divergence. There'd be no outward push. It would be purely inward, or rather downward.
All right, here's our model again.
Gravity would never start pushing plumb bobs apart.
Oh, but it can. So here, I drew lines inside the Earth.
Exists.
Hold on.
It just can't for a start if it doesn't exist.
All right. Well, but we're exploring a model, right? Yeah, so I'm not just throwing out your model. I'll talk about your model, and we'll look at the physics of your model. But we'll first look at this one, right? So here's the plumb bob. Here's inside the mine shaft, right? And let's say that there's something more dense over here, and something maybe less dense here, like a chamber that's empty, right? So there's a lack of matter here, and something more dense here. So if it's in a mine, I imagine they're doing it because there's something interesting to go and dig out. So
I can just destroy it by saying that when they are conducting the experiment, that the plumb bob isn't being pulled to any direction, because they're taking the measurement from when they're happy that it's just perpendicular straight down. It is not being pulled to any side.
Well, no, that actually, if there's a mass here, a larger mass here, and a smaller mass here, it's going to pull this way.
Yeah, I agree. If gravity was real and there was more massive conducting areas, it would do what you're saying, but that's not what happened. They take the result when this thing's hanging straight down and it's not leaning to one side, being sucked to one side by any gravitational forces that are being used as excuses. Nor is magnetic this, that, or the other. There's just, at the end of the day, they diverge, they don't want to accept it, they don't want it to get out, and they come out with all these different rhetorics and false arguments.
Okay, so if you were to see an experiment that happened more where it didn't diverge, where they converged, and maybe you saw more than two, right? And you were convinced that the people doing it weren't part of the elite. What about that?
I'd shut up about it. I'd just basically say, look, this thing can be done, and it can be whatever. It can change whatever. But as it stands, right, for the last year, I've been telling everybody, and the ones that are genuine get it. They're not arguing. They're not paid by anyone. They don't need to lie, but they just get it. They're like, yeah, the elite would like, well, it would have converged twice. You won't be arguing about it now. They'd be able to get it.
I'll give that it converged. That's not the issue. The issue is whether or not there's another variable.
There isn't any explanation. The only thing is when you said, like, what did they use to measure it? If they've made a mistake measuring it, then they've made a mistake measuring it, and I'll give you that. But the thing is that these bunch of scientists that include the elitists, they're all happy. They've all like, it wants some quick 5-minute thing that I could have done. No, it were like the elite, it were the top boys. They checked the measurement, they double-checked it, it's still diverging. Is it hanging perfectly down? It's not being sucked to the side. No, it's not. Perfectly down. Is this one over here? Yeah. We've measured it, we've measured the top. Measure the top again, measure the bottom again. Yeah, it's definitely diverging by 8 inches, and they've had that exact same ratio, that same reading, twice. They've inverted it. This thing's massive. The elite have got space agencies to try to blast.
All right. So, how about this? I have an idea. I'll see if I can pursue it to get a measurement you might be happy with. But let's move on. We need to get wrapping up a little bit here. We've been going for a while. It's been good. It's been a good talk.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I won't. I played the game Halo back on the original Xbox, and I've also read the book Ringworld. And Ringworld, they're on the inside of a band, and the sun's in the middle. Cool pictures on the cover. Won't go into that now, but I want to know who is your favorite. My question is, who's your favorite flat earther? But who's your favorite concave earther? Are there other people that you kind of follow or look at?
To be honest, there's not really one that stands out. I've got like a handful that they're just trying so hard. So it's not like you could see that they've produced a lot of stuff. It's just the fact that they're Christian. They're trying to get concave out and in the right light. And there's just a handful of the Christian concavers that I sort of, as a truther, sort of work with, if you get me. Like, we try to back each other up. We're trying to play the trolls at their own game, to be honest, buddy. The trolls are playing the public, and they've got each other's back, and so we're just trying to fight back. So there's just a few concavers that are putting out material, little bits. Zenith Atlas channels put a couple out. Cheryl, Real Kitty Loves Wheat. There really aren't many genuine people that have got the guts or the confidence to like do what I've been trying to do. But there's many more that I've figured, and there are concavers that are showing it or putting out content.
Okay. Who's your favorite glober?
Again, they'd just be a handful of people online that are truthers and Christians that I can see that they just put effort into trying to get truth out, but they haven't looked into flat Earth or concave Earth. They can't grasp the scope of this deception or that it's happened. Just a few people, you know. I couldn't be biased and name anyone that's pushing Christianity is okay in my book, and everyone ought to make their way to concave if they want to get right in their head and help.
Okay. So in closing, is there anything kind of not too long that you'd want a message you want to give?
Basically, with this structure, this cosmology topic, the creation, whatever we're in, it's, you know, you're going to be able to tick it off with its layers. So does this layer match up with that layer? Can it be spherical if this layer's doing this? Can it be flat? So if you just look at all these different layers, starting from what you'd think's top, as in the stars, and what you know about them, and just keep going down and factor them all in, stick with this stuff, realize that the elite want to invert everyone and invert your perception of reality, and the Luciferians are into inverting. So just look at the layers again, and as soon as you find concavity once or twice, you're going to realize that it's just, we're in a spherical concave model. There's no other option, really. Other than that, the Gospel of Philip, it's not Gnostic. It's talking about the Father. It hasn't been canonized, but it says that the Most High is the innermost. And in the same scripture, it talks about the outer darkness. And there's other scriptures that refer to the spheres of heaven. And I'm a truther. I'm being brought to God, Jesus, all kinds of truths, because I just love truth. And I'm settled at Concave Earth after analysing all the different models, looking into all the history of the science, the psyop. I settled on Concave Earth about a year ago, and since I've noticed that the elite want to suppress me and censor me, etc., because this is where the war is at. Thank you very much, bro.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining me. It's been really good. Very interesting conversation. If anybody else, a flat earther or a concave earther, or I don't know, something similar, you're interested in joining me, you can send me an email, mctoon@mctoon.net. You can just go to my website, mctoon.net, or my Discord server. I just started that one. I'll put the link in the description of that. So, all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. See you later, bro.
All right. Bye.
Okay.